GameStop, their CEO actually just forfeited $98 million in stock after missing company targets and forecasts that they had projected. Remember how AMC asked shareholders the other week if they could authorize them to issue an additional 500 million shares? Yeah, remember how people weren't happy about this? Well, the CEO came out and spoke the other day, and he had a lot to say. Yeah. Well, welcome back to my channel. Hope you guys are having a great day. If you're new here, we go live every single day, 9 a.m. Eastern time, talking about the stock market, crypto news, anything financial news related. So if you're new here, make sure to subscribe so you can be notified when new videos come out. But AMC CEO just came out the other day in an interview, and he pledged not to issue any of the 500 million shares that they asked shareholders to authorize. So if shareholders authorize another 500 million shares for issue, he promised all investors, all shareholders, that they will not use them, at least in the calendar year 2021. This is from CEO Adam Aron, and he's been working very hard to get the movie theaters back up and running as states start to reopen, as we saw a pretty record-breaking weekend with Godzilla vs. Kong. Things are on the up and up for AMC, and he says that, they're not going to be issuing any of those 500 million shares if they're authorized, at least in 2021. That doesn't mean that they won't issue them in 2022, but he said at least for this year, they wouldn't touch them at all, and that made a lot of investors very happy and much more confident in investing in AMC. It was just a piece of good news. So according to B. Riley analyst Eric Wold, he said Friday that the CEO's comments were interpreted as good news, and investors really liked them. And he said how this could be a sign of more investors starting to put money into AMC because they're not worried about their positions getting diluted. They're not worried about any dilution, at least in 2021. And by the time that they would issue new shares, the business would already be doing better, because this year, we're already seeing more and more movie theaters open up. Some of their biggest markets like Los Angeles, New York, those have already started to open back up with limited capacity. And as we start to see more movie theaters open up and more people get vaccines, well, movie theaters are going to do more business, like we've already seen with Godzilla vs. Kong. They had a great weekend there. So he said, we hereby pledge at AMC that if shareholders approve this authorization for 500 million new shares to be issued, we will not use one of those 500 million shares in the calendar year 2021. He said they still do have authorization to issue 43 million shares at this moment in time if they wanted to. So they said they could use that if they wish to raise some extra cash, but they've decided that right now they don't need to do that. They said at this very moment in time, things are looking fine. They don't need to raise that extra money. They've been thinking about it, but at this moment, they haven't made any decisions yet. So at least for now, we know, they could issue 43 million shares this year. And if the 500 million are authorized by shareholders, well, they could go into that and they could potentially do those not this year, but in 2022. But speaking of AMC, during this interview, he also came out and spoke about short sellers and how he said AMC is under attack by short sellers, just like they were a couple months ago. And things are getting a little bit more heated because now that the stock has, lost some of the attention, lost some of the hype in the news, now short sellers are coming in and the short ratio is going higher and higher. So he says that since this has happened, shares have dropped pretty significantly in the last couple of days. And, back in March, the short sales rose about 50% to 73.8 million shares. They've dropped since then, but now they're starting to increase back up again. And during the interview, he said that they already have strategies in place that are very good for AMC, very good for the business moving forward to come out of this pandemic, to succeed as movie theaters start to reopen. And he said he'd like to keep everything at the same pace that they're moving, and he'd like to grow the company even more. So he doesn't want short sellers to get in the way of that, to give any negative sort of news around the company. So this is, a lot of people know right now that everything with the short sellers, If the ratio gets too high for the short ratio for AMC, I think we'd probably see it skyrocket even more, because that's when I feel like a lot of people from Wall Street Bets, retail investors, would want to pour more money into it, because they'd see, well, the short volume ratio is going up higher. And if more people are shorting, people are going to want to get back at the institutions, want the little guy to win. And if they see that percentage continue to increase, I think we'll see AMC shoot up even more in the short term. I think it's very possible for it to reach, $20 a share if we see another short squeeze, which could be possible if we see the short volume ratio continue to increase. But speaking of short sellers and a massive short squeeze, one company in particular backed by Chamath, called Clover Health, is apparently in a short squeeze right now with massive short interest. Very similar to what happened with GameStop, very similar to what happened with AMC. And right now, Clover Health Investments Corp is at 150% short interest, which is exactly what we saw with GameStop. Over 100% short interest. And this is from data compiled by financial analytics firm S3 Partners. So this is the exact same scenario. And it's like we're just seeing the beginnings of it right now, because Clover Health was up as much as 36% in a single day just the other day, once people realized that it became a prime target for a short squeeze, once it became a prime target for short sellers. So then a lot of retail investors started to say, okay, look, this looks like GameStop. This looks like what happened. There's such a high short position on this stock. Let's take advantage of it. Let's see a massive short squeeze here. And just the other day, the stock had 150 million shares traded during midday trade, which was 10 times the average daily volume. 10 times the average daily volume. So obviously, this is picking up attention. And I think if we see Clover Health continue to get more traction in the news, more people talking about it, I think this could definitely skyrocket from where it currently is at, because we've only had one day now with massive, really unheard of gains because of the short squeeze, because a lot of people saw 150% short position, short interest. That shouldn't even be possible. So people saw that, they put money into it, and now Clover Health was up at 1.36% for the day, finished off the other day at 20%. So if we continue to see that sort of volume, 150 million shares traded, well, definitely possible we could see this stock skyrocket, same as AMC, same as GameStop, and have a very similar situation within the next couple of days. So between Chamath, this is a company that was brought public by Chamath, and also with this massive short interest, I think that could be a recipe for another massive winner. But speaking of stocks and Bitcoin, I don't know if you guys saw, but Bitcoin the other day had a flash crash. $10 billion wiped out completely in the matter of 24 hours. $10 billion in positions were liquidated, just taken off all the exchanges, sold off. Bitcoin dropped about 10% in the span of 24 hours. Ethereum was down 15% at one point. This is over the past weekend. And Bitcoin dropped down to the mid $50,000 per coin range. At one point, it was flirting with $65,000. Now it's back down around the mid $50,000 range. It's recovered a bit from where it dropped, but according to Byte, the last 24 hours saw a new record in liquidations, with over 1 million positions being wiped off the books, totaling a mammoth $10 billion in positions that were liquidated. So the single biggest position saw a BTC trade on Binance lose $68.73 million. That was for one single trade. And right now, it seems like some people are starting to dump, really because of some fears of what could potentially be going on with restrictions with governments around the world. We saw Turkey put a restriction into place, banning cryptos from being used as form of payments in the country. And some people are worried that something could happen with the U.S. government. Similar things could happen there. I'll keep you updated on what happens. But right now, we did see a flash crash. This is the biggest drop we've seen in a single 24-hour period since a couple months back when we saw Bitcoin tank in February. It dropped pretty significantly a couple days in February. Not only Bitcoin, though, altcoins are also suffering. Ethereum was down like 10-15%. XRP, LTC, DOT all saw declines above 20% during the day at one point as well. So you could see all red, everything. This was for Sunday, April 18th, I believe, 2021. So yeah, everything was down from Bitcoin, which was at 11% down at one point, to 25% for Polkadot. Only thing that was up was Dogecoin, up 6%. So Dogecoin has been still holding pretty strong there, but we'll see what continues to develop. Speaking of other stocks that have had a massive short squeeze, the big one, which is GameStop. GameStop, their CEO actually just forfeited $98 million in stock after missing company targets and forecasts that they had projected. So GameStop CEO George Sherman forfeited about 587,000 restricted shares of video game retailer GameStop, or almost $98 million, just about $100 million, depending on, what the stock is trading at. And this was for failing to meet performance targets. Obviously, the company is struggling with everything going on in the gaming space. Everything's moving digital. GameStop is in a big transition period, trying to figure out how they can be transform from a brick and mortar retailer to being a, force to reckon with in the digital gaming space. They're going to have to really transition from hardware to software, and they're undergoing all of this right now. But because they missed their targets, he forfeited about $98 million, about 587,000 shares. I wouldn't be too worried though about him, because he still has 1.77 million shares of GameStop stock, which is worth roughly $300 million. So I wouldn't worry about it. But it is interesting to see that they did have to forfeit that many shares because they missed their targets. Because normally when you see a stock, you see the stock price going up. A lot of their compensation packages are tied to stock price and valuation and things like that. But obviously his wasn't, because even though GameStop's stock has skyrocketed, it has nothing to do with the business. The business is still in the same position it was a couple of months ago. They obviously have new leadership. They have, Cohen from Chewy. They have a lot of new hires from Amazon, which now they have as their chief growth officer, their chief technology officer, new COO. So even though with all that, they're still struggling the business. And we'll have to wait and see what happens, how GameStop is able to transition from being a brick and mortar retailer to being a solely digital company, sort of compete with Amazon, be the Amazon of gaming. Now into Star Peak Energy Transition Corp, stock ticker symbol STPK, merger with STEM. We got some big news, another confirmation that STPK just reaffirmed and confirmed the timing of special meeting to approve business combination. This is taking place on April 27th, 2021. And this meeting is just to ensure where shareholders of STPK approve the merger between STPK and STEM. Really, it's like a formality. All SPACs go through this. So once this goes through, and if it goes through, but it's most likely will, as long as this goes through, the merger will be set to be completed, and the stock ticker symbol will change from STPK to STEM shortly after this meeting. So that's on April 27th. We could see the first week of May officially the merger be complete. The meeting takes place on April 27th, Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. It's virtual. Anyone who owns shares as of March 4th, 2021, they are entitled to attend the virtual event, special meeting. There's a link on STPK's website. You can also vote. So we'll wait and see what happens. I'm very bullish on STPK and STEM Inc. I think clean energy storage, between more electric vehicles, Joe Biden's goal of having net zero carbon emissions, between more solar and strain on the electric power grid, well, all of that is just a recipe for success for an energy storage company like STPK. Now on to Binance. Binance made some pretty big updates about a week ago, a couple days ago, and they now allow users to trade tokenized stock tokens, with the first one being Tesla. Tesla seems to always be the first for all of these, new innovative technologies, new and innovative ideas. And now users will be able to purchase as little as 1/100th of a share of Tesla, with prices settled in Binance USD. So on the Binance platform, they're planning on adding a lot of other companies like this. And the important thing is that while like a tokenized stock play in crypto has been done before, Terra Labs' Mirror protocol went live in December. But the thing is with Mirror uses synthetic stocks or tokenized representations of actual equities. But the Binance product, this Binance, Tesla coin, is backed by a depository portfolio of underlying securities managed by an investment firm in Germany. So it's actually backed by physical, shares of the stock. When people buy it, it's underlying all of it is still physical shares of the stock. Me personally, you could just buy partial shares on Robinhood, on a lot of platforms out there. So I don't know the exact benefits of it. If you guys know the benefits of, let's say, buying it on here, let me know. Obviously, the benefit could be with Binance token. If Binance coin goes up in value, I guess that could also be a positive. But other than that, I don't see much benefit to buying it. It's just a cool thing that they are doing. It allows you to buy it and settle it in Binance USD. So we'll see what happens. But pretty big announcement for crypto space, starting to integrate itself with companies like Tesla and other corporations out there. We're probably going to see an inflow of a lot of people, a lot of companies start to do this as well, where they have tokens available on, let's say, Binance. We're going to probably see Binance do this with other tech companies. I wouldn't be surprised if we see, let's say, like an Apple or Amazon soon be available on Binance as well. Now on to NIO. So NIO has a pretty big week coming up on April 29th, 2021. They're going to be reporting their first quarter 2021 financial results, and they're expected to be pretty good. They've announced, individual months, January, February, March. They've had great months, better than expected. But now they're going to be announcing holding an earnings conference on April 29th. They're going to be announcing the financial results as well on that same day, April 29th. So things should be pretty good for the company. I think NIO is in a great position to succeed. They're sort of separating themselves as the number 2 electric vehicle company in China, obviously behind Tesla. They're pretty far behind Tesla. But the one thing that they have that Tesla doesn't have is their battery as a service, subscription model, whereas anytime someone purchases a vehicle with this battery as a service model, it's going to be recurring revenue for the company for years and years to come. So that means every single person who purchases a vehicle, that's recurring revenue every single month for NIO. So that means even if they didn't sell vehicles, they would still have all of this recurring revenue from vehicles they've already sold. And in my opinion, I think this is a great model. And especially with them already building out the charging station, this battery swapping stations, and all of the infrastructure into place, they're really well on their way to doing this and being successful. They've already done it multiple times. Also, this year they're planning on building hundreds of more battery swapping stations and locations all across the country. So that's a big deal. And they're also going to be coming out with their first ever sedan very shortly. So they have a lot going for them. I expect big numbers in their Q1 2021 results on April 29th. Earnings call is going to be at 8 p.m. Eastern time on April 29th, so we could always check that out. Tune in for that as well. Speaking of EVs, EVGO, which is one of the largest, the nation's largest public fast charging network for electric vehicles and the only platform powered by 100% renewable electricity, just announced that they opened a new EVGO lab in El Segundo, California. It's a 4,000-foot facility and provides the company's team of engineers, technicians, and everyone working there. It gives them a space to test hardware, software, and vehicle technologies to improve on their current charging stations. Like something that they've already done is they started to figure out how to integrate, Tesla. They have a partnership with Tesla. So every single EVGO charging location has a Tesla adapter on it, and that expands their market. They're also looking, always to how can they make it faster? How can they make it easier for people to charge? Those are things that they're always researching and doing. So they did just build a new facility in California. Currently, they have about a little over 800 charging stations around the U.S. They serve more than 235,000 customers in 35 states. And this is really just going to serve as an innovation hub for the company to continue to improve and develop their technologies moving forward. It's not like a manufacturing facility where they're going to be building actual charging stations, but it is going to be like an innovation lab for research, development, and improving upon their current technology. So this is pretty exciting. Pretty big space that they got in California. And one thing to keep in mind about EVGO is that they are the only electric vehicle charging station company that has been approved and has approvals for, where is it? They're the only U.S. network currently capable of charging all 3 fast charging protocols, including all 3 that are available. So that's pretty important. They can really charge any vehicle out there. They have the Tesla adapters. They can charge any EV out there. And that's important when you're talking about charging stations, having all of the adapters to be able to charge any vehicle that someone has. And moving on to EVBox. So another EV charging station, but this one is based in Europe. They're the largest in Europe by far. They have over 50% market share of all the total charging stations in Europe. Currently, they have over 200,000 EV charging ports installed. They are in over 70 countries and have over 5,000 fast charging stations as well. Currently, the stock ticker symbol for this is TPGY. It's EVBox. Currently going through a merger, and what I like about this company is that in terms of valuation, it's really undervalued, and I think it could easily double, triple, because when you're looking at ChargePoint, when you're looking at EVGO, all of these companies have significantly less charging stations than EVBox. EVBox has over 200,000 charging ports. They have well over 50% market share in Europe, and they're on a roll to continue to grow. And it doesn't look like there's any other company in Europe that's going to be able to take them off their pedestal to really be able to compete with them and challenge them for that number 1 position. So as Europe continues to pass more government regulations to push for electric vehicles, I see EVBox continuing to outperform their competitors, continue to skyrocket. I think this stock could easily be a $40, $50 per share company very, very soon. We don't know the exact day or merger date yet. We just know that the merger has been they've already agreed to the merger. It just hasn't gone through, hasn't been official and confirmed yet. Once it is official, the stock ticker symbol will change from TPGY over to something new. But at this point right now, based on their revenue, they did about $120 million in revenue. That's what they're projecting. And they're doing well above what any other company out there is doing for charging stations right now. So I'll make sure to keep you guys updated on what happens with EVBox, EVGO, other charging station companies as well. But that's really all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please be sure to smash the like button, leave a comment down below, and don't forget, you can get 4 free stocks valued up to $1,600 when you download the Webull investing app using the link down below. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.